Hi guys, my name is Jared and I'm here with Heat Press Nation, and today we're gonna have our MyExpert live training webinar. Now what these webinars are they're like little mini courses designed to help you be the absolute best that you could possibly be. So we have different topics that we'll usually cover. So today we're covering Silhouette Cameo and how to use the different additional tools. Sometimes we'll be covering our vinyl systems cutters. We'll be showing you how to use your heat presses, how to use certain materials, and so on and so forth. So for today, I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. If you have any questions, you can comment on Facebook or YouTube. It's all good for us here. It's all the same, and we're very excited for that. So today we are going to be talking about the Silhouette tools and how to use them, what they're for, why do they even have them? It's a vinyl cutter. Doesn't it just have one tool? So what I'm gonna do is, and I don't know if you can see it back here, that's a Silhouette Cameo, and it's connected via Bluetooth, which is really cool because it's all the way across the room from me. So there's our cute little Cameo, but now we're gonna come back to me because I have all the tools right here, and I'll show you. Okay, so let's get started. First tool we're gonna talk about, which is, depending on what you're doing, I'm gonna talk about 4 tools today. We're gonna be talking about the Kraft tool, the Rotary tool, the punch tool, and the pen tool. First up is the Kraft tool. Now this is, I'm gonna do like how, I don't know if you guys have seen how the makeup girls, there it is. They put their hands behind it so it can catch focus. A little bright in here. There we go. This is the 3mm Kraft tool. And yes, 3mm, that's pretty thick. Now it's a manually adjusted blade, and actually I should be doing all this pretty close up. At the top, it twists. So you could twist it to expose the blade more out, which is going to be for thicker items. It goes all the way to 3mm. So I'm going to expose it all the way. It's pretty doggone far out. Now you might be asking yourself, well, why the heck would I need to cut anything that thick? Well, the cool thing about the Silhouette Cameo is that you could use it for additional products and projects, not just heat transfer vinyl. So they do sell this. My favorite one, I'll just say this, is at like Michael's, and this is kind of outside of the realm of heat transfer vinyl, but like they sell this Kraft balsa wood, which is a very thin wood that people use for crafts. When I was a little kid from the ice cream man, he would sell us these little balsa wood airplane kits, and it would fold flat, but then you would just like assemble it, and you'd have a really cool little plane. Anyways, that's what this is for. You can cut it with this. This is really thick. You can also cut leather with it, which I think is also really cool. I've been meaning to get into leather crafting, haven't. I feel like everybody's getting into leather crafting right now. But yeah, you can cut leather with it, which is really cool. So it's really nice. Now, for heat transfer vinyl, which is what we do here, this is a sheet of Caesar brick. Like, this is a hefty material. We have a cool video coming up pretty soon where my pal Alex and my other pal Ryan, they show off some cool things with Caesar brick. This Caesar brick is 600 microns thick. That's why it's called Caesar brick 600. Regular heat transfer vinyl is like, I want to say like under 90. It's really thin. So this is a very, very thick material. Now, sometimes when you're cutting this, or you're cutting like Caesar strip flock, which is flock is a really thick like satin type material. When you're cutting those those thick materials, sometimes the regular blade, and I do have a regular blade here somewhere, this regular blade it's pretty cool, but it's just sometimes, especially if you have like finer details or if you just want to cut it in one pass, it just really helps to have the thicker Kraft blade. So this one has the orange top right there, and we'll go ahead and demo that in a second. But yeah, the Kraft blade, it's really cool. So let's go ahead and how would you even set this up? We're gonna go one tool at a time. So here we are in Silhouette Studio. And we're just gonna get just a nice basic design. Here we go. We're gonna do this really quick. Just gonna type in hello, and so we can see what I'm doing, right? And really quick, I do want to find a more bold font. I'm gonna go over here to our font tool. I have a bunch of bold fonts. That one looks wild. That looks kind of weird. I don't want to. Okay, stencil. There we go. And we're gonna make this big. Okay. Just gonna position it right here. I do want to add a weed box, which if you're not into the habit of adding a weed box to your graphics, you really should. Like, it's just good practice. And then what I do is I'll select them both, and then I will hit this little crosshairs, and it centers them to. Oh no, what? Oh, I know, because this is not convert to path. I gotta convert my text to path, and then it will line up correctly. There we go. We're gonna group this. We're gonna move it back over here. And this, I'm speeding through this. This is not really the main part of the tutorial. Okay, so we have our graphic. We're gonna go to send. And I have my Cameo already connected. It's ready to load. And you'll notice that there's no tool detected. And then I had it set for a rotary cut. We're gonna skip that because we're not doing rotary cut right now. What's cool about the Cameo too is that you have two carriages. You could load two blades at the same time. In fact, I'm gonna go over to my Cameo and we're going to load our Kraft Blade and our material. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna load the Kraft Blade. Now, if you look on the front, there's a 2 on there. You might not be able to see it on screen, but when you get your blade, it will say 2. There's a little 2 on the front, meaning this should only be loaded into blade carriage number 2. There's a 2 right here, so you're not going to get them mixed up. So all you do is you're going to load it in. You're going to make sure it's completely flush. So fully insert it. You're going to push that tab in. There we go. Until you hear the snap. So now our blade is in carriage 2. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to load our material. You could load it directly or on the mat, just because I like to. I'm going to load it on the mat. Now, I know it's sticking a little bit off the edge. And in my experience, it's not the end of the world if the blade isn't, if you have a little bit of material sticking off the bottom. As long as it's lined up on top, we're going to load this in. There we go. And there you go, it's loaded. So now I'm going to go back to the screen so just to get one more look at how to send it. And so now if we look at carriage, see carriage 1, no tool detected. This is what I love about the Cameo. You have those smart tools. And carriage 2, we have our Kraft Blade detected. So what are we going to do now? We're just going to set our material. We're not going to do a rotary cut. We're just going to do auto craft cut. There we go. And we're not using fabric. We are using heat transfer. Flocked is usually a pretty good thing to use because I don't think it has brick. There's no preset for Caesar brick. So we're just going to use the heat transfer flocked preset. Click more to define new settings. Okay, there we go. Force, we don't need the force to be that hard because this is carriage 2. All right. So force 7, yeah, because lest we forget, there's like a zillion not a zillion grams, but yeah, there's like a zillion grams of force that you could put on here, and you don't really want that. So we're gonna drop our speed just a little bit, and if you go to Caesar's website, caesarna.com, you'll have better tools for this. Okay, so we're just gonna save as I'm just gonna call this brick. We might need to adjust our settings. No worries. This is more how to send it using the craft tool, not so much. It's not a brick tutorial. So, okay, awesome. So now I'm getting ready to send. Now, before I send, there is one thing that I did forget to do. Now, when you're using the Kraft Blade, you do have to adjust it manually. And so we don't need, as I showed earlier, we don't need the full 3mm. Oops, there we go. We don't need the full 3mm depth, so I'm just going to adjust the blade manually right here to where I think it'll work best. One thing that you can always do is just get a piece of the material and just hold the blade up to it, and just make sure it's going to pierce all the way through. I don't want it to pierce the plastic, but here we go. That should be good. If you're curious, my blade settings are right there. It's at the 7, so my blade setting is a 7. We're going to see how this works out. Now, for the sake of time, I don't think I'll be able to do a full cut through of everything, and I don't have any fabric, so the Rotary Blade will explain that. But anyways, here's the craft tool, and this just gives us a better idea of how it works. So here we go. So our next tool is really cool. and this is the punch tool. So now the cool thing about the punch tool has the blue top, right? The blue top right there. The punch tool there's no adjustments, there's no settings. The punch tool is just a little needle, and what it does is it punches the parts that you need to weed. Now here's why this is cool. I don't know about you, but have you ever done a graphic, you've cut it out and you're like, wait, what part do I weed again? Am I weeding the inside? And you kind of misplace, or you're training somebody to help you out with your weeding, and it's like, wait, which one? Oh, darn it, like, ah, man, and they don't know where to weed. It's a real problem, especially with more complex designs. The cool thing about the punch tool is that it just punches. It pre-punches little holes, which is also cool because it kind of guides your hook tool. It pre-punches holes in all of the pieces that need to be cut. Let me show you what that looks like. So for this, we're going to go back. So here's a graphic. Let's just pretend this is my logo. This is actually the worst logo I have ever done in my whole entire life. Make this, there we go. So now we send this to cut, but how does it know which part to cut? Actually, I just want to do one more thing. Now it's just one piece, right? Make it a compound path. Okay, so I'm going to send it to cut. So punch tool detected. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go back over here, and you see these little blue marks. So what the punch tool is going to do, it's going to basically stab these parts to let us know which part to weed out. And it's done them strategically through. So after it cuts, so what you're going to want to, what you usually do is carriage 1, you load it with your cut tool, which is the red line. The red line is everything that gets cut. Carriage 2, which are these blue punch marks, it's just going to punch little holes in it to make it super easy to weed. Now, granted, this is not a very difficult thing to weed, but if you were using, if you did have a graphic that was a lot more complicated and you wanted just a little guidance as to where exactly you want to weed out, that's definitely, the punch tool is going to save your booty. Okay, so that's the punch tool. The last one, which is really cool, actually I got 2 more, but the one that I really love is the pen holder tool. Now I keep it in the box because it just keeps everything organized, but this allows you to sketch silhouette designs with whatever pen, pencil, marker you want. So this is really cool. It's super easy how it works. It comes with 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. So the blue one is small for smaller pens or pencils. White one's medium, and this gray one is the large one. So I'll show you really quick how it works. They unscrew from the top. This is just a regular permanent marker. And I found that I actually found these markers, they're really fat. So I usually stick it in this way. And you're just going to slip this little collar on right here. And then there's a cap to keep your stuff from drying out. Okay, so it's a little too wide. I'm gonna just pull the cap more this way so it fits good. There we go. And now you just insert the pen and then you screw it in until the pen, which is not happening yet, the pen should stick out of here just a little bit. So we're gonna keep twisting, twisting. You only need to expose the tip of the, let's see if you can see that, almost. There we go. You only need to expose the tip of the marker just a little bit. Just a little bit, just enough to make contact with the paper. Now, this pen tool is for the previous generation of Silhouette. So all that means, remember this bag, if you're using the new Cameo 4 Plus or Pro, remember this little baggie that came with all these extra little attachments? You pull out the blue one, and now this will auto detect. You just put it in like this, right? Fits perfectly like a glove. And now because it has the auto detect little microchip thing right there, when I put it into the Silhouette Cameo, it's going to auto detect. And what that allows it to do is now I can anything. So let's go back to my screen here. So now I could actually draw this graphic with the pen. How cool is that? So I could sketch this. So let's say you have, you want a more hand-drawn you want to use real ink or whatever, you have cool calligraphy pens that you like, whatever it might be, you can now use those pens with your Silhouette Cameo. You can have the Cameo sketch it out for you. Now, this is really cool. Just last week, I was talking about these sublimation pens that we have. And basically anything that you could draw on paper, you could heat press and sublimate onto coffee mugs. Watch it. It was really cool. Anyway, so that's really cool. And you could use this pen tool to sketch those out on the Silhouette Cameo. You load it the same. You're going to send it. Having a little bit of Bluetooth connection issues, so we will have to update this, obviously, with a more specific video. But yeah, the pen tool, like, this is a super, super fun tool. This attachment is great. Again, if you want to use those, if you have those sublimation markers and you want to sketch stuff out in your Cameo, that's what you use the pen tool for. And last but not least, the Rotary Blade. So there's a little wheel in there. In fact, let me twist it out so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, I gotta go back. I gotta go to influencer school so I could know how to do this right. There we go. Rotary Blade. And so here's what's really wild about the Rotary Blade. Here's something I didn't know. Actually, one of my good friends, Mrs. Terry Johnson, really cool. She does these things called, and I always mispronounce it, appliques. She's corrected me like 5 times, and I still can't remember. Appliques, whatever they are. You could cut those out with your Cameo. Now, if you're a quilter, let's actually go back to the screen here really quick. So basically any shape that you could bring in here, you can cut it out of fabric or felt. Now you're saying, well, what do I want felt for? Have you seen those like pennants? Dude, I've seen some people make custom pennants with their Silhouette Cameos. So you cut out the pennant and then you heat press vinyl onto it. So it's totally custom, but you cut the shape out with the Rotary Blade. You guys, those custom pennants are wild. I've seen some friends make custom felt pennants, or they're not pennants now. They're those like party banners where you like string it along and it says like happy birthday. Whatever you could dream up in this design space, you could send it over. So really quick, I'm gonna load the rotary tool. All of these tools, except for the pen tool, they are gonna be for carriage 2 only. So you don't see this, but I am loading the rotary tool. Okay, so now the rotary tool, we're gonna go back to this hello. No, it's not gonna be good for the rotary tool. We're just gonna go to this one. Now, the thing about the rotary tool is for certain fine details, it might not work for because it's a round blade. You'd be surprised at how detailed it can get though. Like, it is really cool, but for fine things like this, I don't know if I would recommend it, but you can get a preview. You're gonna go to send. And if we look at, no, we don't want to cut it. If we look at carriage 2, rotary blade detected, rotary cut, and we're gonna hit that rotary cut. Now, cardstock plane, no, we're not cardstock plane. We are gonna be using, let's just imagine that we have, where is it? Not full, fabric. Let's just imagine that we have some wool, some felt. All right. Now, you might be wondering, what are all these little squiggles? I don't remember these being a part of my design. So the rotary blade, it has to reset itself. So when it comes in and it slices at a certain angle, like it can't just, because the blade has to turn, it uses this like extra area out here to turn itself, reorient, and make a pass at a different angle. So if you want to know what's all this little choppy area, this is where the rotary blade is gonna pretty much ruin your material and reset itself so it can come in and make these cuts. Obviously the circle is gonna be 0 problem for our rotary blade, but if we wanted it to cut, Jared McHeat press over here, these are all the different resets that it would have to do. So it'd be a little time consuming. Again, not 100% recommended for like fine details like this, but for like loose details, or if you have the time, you can cut this out. Okay, so that's our 4 blades. Again, we got the rotary blade loaded up over there. Actually, I think I left all the blades over there. So today we covered the rotary blade, which is gonna be good for fabrics and things like felt, thin leather, of course, just regular cloth if you're quilting, or you have other projects where you would like to cut a piece of cloth to a certain shape or dimension. the rotary blade is going to be killer. The other blade we talked about was the punch tool. Now the punch tool is going to pre-mark, it's going to punch little holes. It's going to pre-mark the areas where you need to weed out. This is especially helpful if you're weeding out complicated designs or you're training somebody and you don't want them to accidentally weed the wrong thing. The punch tool is invaluable for that. Third tool we talked about, and I'm not going in order, I don't think. The third tool we talked about is the pen tool, which of course you can use for a marker. I loaded up a permanent marker here. This is great for sublimation markers. I just did a live stream just where we talked all about the sublimation markers and showed how cool they were. And we had people asking, can you use the pen tool for your sublimation markers? And yes, you can. This is also great if you wanted to add kind of a more hand-drawn touch. Now, if you have metallic markers, that's another really, really cool application. You can have your Cameo sketch out whatever you want in that really cool shiny metallic marker, which is something that you really can't do with any other machine. Like if you want that metallic ink look on whatever your project is, the only way you're going to get it from a machine is with the Cameo, and you will need this pen tool. And of course, lastly, we showed off the Kraft Blade. Now the Kraft Blade cuts up to 3 millimeters thick, which makes it perfect for cutting thicker leather, as well as cardstock, template materials, like so many things that you can cut with that Kraft Blade, up to 3 millimeters. Now I know that doesn't sound very thick to some of you guys, but for those of us in the craft world, like that's a lot. That's really thick. You can use it to even cut things like balsa wood for fun wood projects. It's especially cool if you don't have, maybe you've been wanting a glow forge to cut out certain materials. It's not going to cut like the glow forge, of course, but there are certain amount of crossover where you can cut certain materials. It's not going to cut metal, thick metal, of course, like that. It's meant for softer materials. I would imagine that the thin balsa wood is probably the thickest you want to go, but if you decide to try it, please let us know how it works for you. I personally like the Kraft Blade for leather crafting. I haven't got into it, like I said, as much as I want to, but it's really cool, and I think it's a really cool application for that. But do me a favor, you tell me where you are using any of these 4 blades. Show us how. We did have a little issue with the Bluetooth connectivity, so we might have to update this video showing you actual applications. But for today, for this webinar, yeah, we're really glad you guys joined us. I hope you learned something, and I hope you try one of these tools and see how they work for you. That's going to do it for me here at Heat Press Nation. I thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you around.